started to acquire different properties all along the Loire River. So now we are the only family winery in the whole Loire being present in the 4 main regions of the Loire Valley. So the Central Loire, our roots, Touraine area, Anjou area, and Muscadet. So we recently, 2 years ago, bought an estate in Muscadet. So that's closing the whole tour of the Loire Valley. So it's a very unique business model, having a footprint in all of these 4 main regions and being not only producer and negociant as well. So today we'll go through a selection of our wines, not all of these regions, but a nice sneak peek of key appellation in the Loire Valley. So we are actually starting with a rosé, which is a vin de France rosé called La Perriere, from our brand called La Perriere, which is our signature of Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir grape variety. And we are starting with this vin de France category. So the idea is that 10 years ago, the Saget family decided to use their expertise of Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir grape. As you know, Central Loire vineyards are coming from these 2 grape varieties, so they have this expertise of these 2 grapes. So they decided to use the vin de France category to look for the best Sauvignon Blanc and best Pinot Noir in France and find the blend they were looking for to have both fruitiness and freshness from the Loire Valley. So we source from different areas in France, and the first one we are starting with is 100% Pinot Noir vin de France. So vin de France means the Pinot Noir comes from different areas. In our case, what we do is we source from Loire Valley and from southern France, Languedoc. Why do we do this? It's because it's giving us a really nice, interesting balance between the more maturity, fruity approach of Pinot from south of France, and obviously we really like the acidity. That is a really important touch to our wines from the Loire Valley part. So the acidic part is because of the Touraine sourcing, so Loire Valley part. And that's the first wine, so we are actually tasting at the moment. La Petite Perriere Rosée.
Very pretty. And a great aperitif wine as well.
Okay, merci. Taste the 3 colors today. So the Sauvignon Blanc is our expertise. You know, Pouilly Fumé, the roots of the family is Pouilly Fumé. Pouilly Fumé is the white wine producing AOC from Sauvignon Blanc. So the idea was really to use our expertise of this grape and have an accessible wines with this nice balance between the fruitiness and the acidity. So that's the same spirit for the whole range. We'll have the 3 colors really to have this easygoing wines, but with this perfect balance that we're looking for. So we'll go through the Pinot Noir in red afterwards, and then for the appetizers and main course, we'll move to central vineyards. So we'll have a focus on 100% Loire wines.
Let's kind of blend different terroirs so we can have the best quality Sauvignon Blanc and a little bit of, a little bit of acidity, a little bit of minerality, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of tropical, a little bit of green, everything just to get what Sauvignon Blanc, the grape, is supposed to taste like.
So by law, you're able to do that? You just need 85% source from?
No, so the Vin de France category was created 10 years ago, and that's kind of your category. You have like the village category, the region category, and then the
AOC.
the Vin de France is everything else. So
Yeah.
it can be either you choose to blend grapes from different areas, or it's also the category if you make a wine that doesn't fit in the legal requirements of the category. For example, if you decided to do Viognier in Bordeaux, that's not recognized by the Bordeaux AOC, so it'd have to be called Vin de France. It would not be allowed to be Vin de France. So yeah, so exactly. So table wine had a bad reputation, and France decided to mix that appellation and create a better, little bit more well-regulated and higher-end category of Vin de France 10 years ago. And Arnaud and Laurent were really forward-thinking, but because they realized that they could kind of, with that Vin de France appellation, mix different terroirs to get the best of both worlds, and they were amongst the first producers to ever create a Vin de France. Actually, La Petite Perriere was released the same year the appellation became legal.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm. So
they were
were
already experimenting.
Oh, okay.
I forgot it was with the same.
Well, because we're ready, you're pouring the next one. So Le Petit Père Pinot Noir to me is really, really a gem in this portfolio because it's a wine, as I said, the Saget brothers are striving to do what they think is the best expression of the grape. And you know, Pinot Noir is a grape that is from France, that's originally from Burgundy, that is now in many other countries, including California, where it's a completely different expression. It reminds me like when you go to Italy and you see those little elegant cannolis, and then you go to Little Italy, New York, and the cannolis are this big. That's pretty much what happened to Pinot Noir, in my opinion. So, so here we have something that's going to be a little bit more lighter, low alcohol, restraint on the fruit, a little bit more elegant, cooler climate style. So it's going to be more reminiscent of a Burgundy style. I'm not saying it's a Burgundy because it's not, but it's going to be, that's what the style that we're striving for. In France, there are very few cool climates Pinot Noir. They're in the Loire Valley, and they're in Burgundy, and Alsace as well. Here we have something that's going to be, as I said, kind of more Burgundy style, northern climate style, at a Languedoc price point, because we're able to do that Vin de France. There's actually no Burgundy. There's mostly a Loire wine, and then a little bit of the south of France, which is nice because it gives you a nice little cherry finish, almost a little bit of violet, so it's a little bit friendlier on the finish. And it's the only wine in its category that can have this flavor profile at this price point, because all the Pinot Noirs, you know, from the Languedoc are going to be bigger because of the weather there. Most of them have Syrah or Grenache in them, and they're going to be juicier and higher in alcohol. So I think that this is really the underdog of the portfolio. It's something that when I brown bag it for customers, their mind never goes to the price point that it is. They always think it's a way more expensive wine. So yeah.
Very elegant.
Very elegant. That's why we tried it.
These are the same grapes as those.
Yes, and the same sourcing and the same winemaking. Yeah.
In the same prices?
Yeah.
In the $10 range?
Yeah.
Now
you're.
if you blind taste it, you will never think it's inexpensive. You will
Yeah,
never
for the
put
price
you
point,
put
yeah.
at least 15 or 18 euros on it. You never
Yep.
can.
Yep.
That's a huge markup. The difference in price for that.
Bit too tight, so it's still very soft, very very fruity style. So even chill a little bit is really a nice one. So moving towards this wine called Blanc Fumé de Pouilly La Perriere, from La Perriere, is actually a new wine in our portfolio. It's called Blanc Fumé de Pouilly, which is an interesting name. I don't know if you've ever heard about. Yeah, it's our Blanc Fumé de Pouilly from La Perriere. So I don't know if you've ever heard about this way of introducing this AOC. It's actually a Pouilly Fumé. To give you more insight about this name, Blanc Fumé actually means Sauvignon Blanc in Central Loire. It's the way we call Sauvignon Blanc, where we are from. And Blanc Fumé de Pouilly is actually a Pouilly Fumé. So that's a very new wine in our range. 2018 vintage is our first release. And this is, so as we mentioned earlier, the Saget family is originally from Pouilly, producing Pouilly for 9 generations, so that these are their roots, their specialty, I would say. And this Blanc Fumé de Pouilly is coming from a type of soil that we call Kimmeridgian marls. So it's the same type of soil that maybe you've heard from Chablis area. You have to imagine that Pouilly Fumé is not so far away from Chablis. Actually, it's only 1 hour 30 drive away, most on the western parts. So it's the same type of soil, but that produce obviously very different type of wine than in Chablis. It's not the same grapes, it's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. But this type of soil marls give to the Sauvignon Blanc a bit of fruitier approach, more generosity in terms of structure of palate. So it will be very interesting because we'll taste side by side afterwards the Sancerre, and you will get to witness the difference between these two AOC, which are neighbors. We are only 10 minutes away from each other. One is on the right bank of the Loire Valley, which is Blanc Fumé de Pouilly on the right bank, and Sancerre on the left bank. But the Pouilly Fumé in our case is more on the fruits, more on the a bit more fuller bodied on the palate as well. So we'll taste the same vintages, which is also good to get a good comparison. And just a few insight about the vintage. 2018 vintage in the Loire Valley was beautiful vintage, actually really warm in summertime. not as warm as 19, but kind of a hot vintage for us, even though we are a bit continental type of climate in central Loire Valley. We don't have the influence of the ocean compared to Muscadet area, which are way closer. So it was very hot, but what we succeeded to have is obviously what we are looking for in a Sauvignon Blanc from Central Loire is this balance between the acidity levels and the maturity. So we always have this beautiful freshness and good acidity in the wine. So that the 3 heat waves in France in 19. So it was different depending on where you were, depending on the regions. Well, in the Loire Valley, in central Loire Valley, the summer was extremely dry and hot. So we didn't have much of water, but we just finished harvesting all of our wines actually. We are just missing the Chenin and Cabernet Franc because it's a little bit later. But we finished the Central Loire vineyards in harvest, in La Perriere, in Pouilly-Fumé and Sancerre. And the profile is the wine is really good maturity. We didn't have diseases this year, obviously, because it was really dry, so we didn't have this impact of humidity levels, which creates certain types of disease in our vineyards. So really good sanitary conditions, really good maturity, and still good freshness. The only thing on the 19 vintage is that because of the lack of water, the grapes were not so big. So when we press the grapes, this was not as normal yield as it should be, because the pressing did not produce as much juice. So it's more a matter of the volumes aspects than the quality. Quality is really beautiful. So a beautiful vintage ahead of us, but a little bit less, not up to the normal yields of the appellation.
You know what I'm saying? So we're buying. Well, we're bottling. It has to be a négociant because it's not because La Perriere is Sancerre, this is please. But we're changing the wine ourselves. From our students.
So, which is actually an
Get it?
important.
So we have La Perriere Sancerre and La Perriere Mégalithe. Cecile kind of talked about the differences between Sancerre and Pouilly-Fumé in general. As you saw, the Pouilly-Fumé is bottled in the same brand as the Sancerre, which our estate is in Sancerre. It's called La Perriere, but we've turned it into a brand because La Petite Perriere, as we said, is Vin de France. So we wanted it all to be kind of streamlined with the entry level, the main level, and then the icon. So La Perriere is actually a magical place. It's a 200 million year old cave that was naturally formed when the ocean receded from the region, left natural caves and all these fossils that we've been talking about about the soil. The entire winery, not just these vats, the entire winery is located inside the cave. From bringing in the bins on the tractor to pressing the juice to aging the wine to bottling it, labeling it, boxing and shipping, everything happens inside the cave. It's also a really, really magical, beautiful place. We're the most visited estate in Sancerre. We get 40,000 visitors a year. This is the point where I plug in that we own a hotel in Sancerre. So you guys can come in and stay at the Panoramic and visit the cave and have the whole Saget experience. But a lot of people actually who don't even know the wines or don't know Saget just go to the cave because it's very, very famous.
And a lot of people go to that.
And a swimming pool. Yeah, it's called the Panoramic because it's off the cliff and you see all the vineyards of Sancerre. And I've never had the time to get in the pool, but there's an actual pool. It's really nice. So you tell me how it is. So to talk about the estate itself, La Perriere is a famous estate that the Saget family bought in 1996, and that immediately put them on the map in Sancerre because it's a historically also famous estate. It was owned by the Archambault family. The Archambaults were the pioneers of bringing Sauvignon Blanc to Sancerre, then starting to grow the Sancerre wine that we know today. It's also size-wise, it's a 43-hectare estate. Your average Sancerre producer has about 10, so pretty large estate. And soil-wise, there are 3 types of soil in Sancerre. Silex, Caillotte, et Pierre Blanche. So flint, limestone, and Cambrian marls. So here we have 2 types of soil in this estate. We have 70% flint, 30% limestone. And you can really tell it when you taste the wines. I know it's a little bit confusing how they pour them, but you can just recognize all the wines. The Blanc Fumé is going to be really tropical. And then the Sancerre is going to be a little bit more on the rocky side, a little bit more flinty, which is, you know, that gunpowder quality is what people look for in a Sancerre. So because our estate is 70% silex, and that's the most sought after soil, it makes this a really typical Sancerre. And then the rest, the 30% are limestone, which gives you a lot of that fruitiness as well. So it's a nice balanced Sancerre. And then the one in the middle that we just requested that they pour is Mégalithe. So Mégalithe is our icon wine. Our estate is 43 hectares, within which there's a 10 hectares single plot called Les Royeux, which we hand harvest. And some of the juice is aged in barrels and for about a year, and partially new, about a third new, so not too oaky, but this actually gives the wine a quality, an aging capacity that's incredible. So personally, before starting working for the Saget family, I did not know that you could have 20-year-old Sauvignon Blanc and that it's beautiful. But when you think about the soil, we're also on that Cambrian nerve, that's in Chablis and in Champagne. So you get a lot of fruit, which lingers, but you get a lot of that minerality from the silex, which really keep the wines sharp and give you that edginess that you really like, and a little bit of oak kind of gives structure. So Mégalithe has been produced since 1998, and the wines are still tasting super fresh. It's a little bit more rounder and a little bit more voluptuous than the main Sancerre, but it's really nice actually to have the opportunity to taste these 3 wines side by side. The Blanc Fumé and the Sancerre to compare the soils, and then the Sancerre and the Mégalithe to see kind of like, with La Perriere Sauvignon Blanc, you have the 3 tiers of Sauvignon Blanc that we strive to achieve. Now, price point wise, the Blanc Fumé is going to be around $26 SRP on the shelf. The Sancerre is going to be around $29, and the Mégalithe is around $55, which, yes, it is fairly expensive for a Sancerre on the shelf, but considering that's our most expensive wine, I think that's still pretty decent. Blanc Fumé, the brand new wine that just came out this year with its first rating of 91 points, is about $26 on the shelf, and then $29 for the Sancerre, and then about $50 to $55 for the Mégalithe. It took a while. We launched Mégalithe for the very first time in the US last year with the 2014 vintage. The 2016 is what we're tasting right now. Just got 96 points decanter. So it's our second release ever of Mégalithe in Florida. Took a little bit of time, but it's now our driving market in the US actually. They're selling more Mégalithe than any. Basically, Arnaud and Laurent's father. So Arnaud and Laurent are 9th generation. Their father was the one who expanded outside of the family estate. For 200 years, all the family had been doing was growing and making Puy Fumé. And then their father realized that his father he was 19 when his father passed away, and he realized that just the estate in Puy would not be enough to feed 2 families, his and his younger brothers eventually. So he developed a négociant business first. And the Chinon is actually part of that négociant label. We don't own any land in Chinon or in Touraine. So saying the Saget brothers are 9th generation, and their father was the 8th generation. And he's the one who started expanding across the Loire Valley. And first by creating a négociant brand called Guy Saget, and Marie de Beauregard de Chinon is one of the items of this négociant brand, because we don't have any land there. And so Marie de Beauregard is actually a super friendly Chinon. You know, Chinon is the benchmark for Cabernet Franc, 100% Cabernet Franc, but this wine sees about a year in oak, and Chinon is always recognizable because of its green notes, herbaceous notes on the nose. It could be a little bit too green. It could be super tight. But the fact that this wine spends about a year in oak really opens it up, softens the tannins, and makes this wine really fruity and and full-bodied and soft, and it's a great introduction to Chinon. And yeah, it's a lovely wine.
Produced. So now we are on the most, well, not the most western part of the Loire, but it's Anjou area, which is close to the Muscadet, so closer to the Atlantic Ocean actually. And we have our first wine, which is a Chenin Blanc from Château de la Mulonnière. So Château de la Mulonnière is our own property that the family bought in 2003. And so we are based in the village called Beaulieu-sur-Léon. So we are mainly producing Chenin Blanc in this property, and we have fantastic terroir of schist, which is a real gem for the Chenin Blanc expression, because it gives such a good freshness and good acidity expression of Chenin. So we are starting with the first label called M de Mulonnière, which is a bit an introduction towards the Chenin Blanc in our region. So the whole idea with this one was to showcase the typicity of Chenin in Anjou area, but not necessarily a terroir-driven wines. That we'll discover a terroir-driven wines on the last one actually. This one is a bit in the spirit of La Perriere for the Sauvignon, but for another grape variety, which is Chenin, to give an introduction of the grape, approachable style of wine. With also an interesting fact is we have residual sugar in the wine. So we decided to have about 10 grams of residual sugar, natural residual sugar in this wine, just enough to offer a wine that has a generosity, but not too heavy, so that we keep the very lively, high acidity levels that we know and we like in Chenin. You have to imagine that Chenin Blanc is actually a more acidic grape than Sauvignon is. So we are a bit changing the style with the residual sugar, but just enough to accompany the wine. So that's the introduction. And then we'll finish with we're gonna ask for the pouring. We'll finish with the second wine, which is a real terroir-driven Chenin Blanc from Savenière AOC. So see, not only it's an older vintage, that's why you see a difference in color, but it's also the aging process that's affecting the style of slightly the color of the wine. So yeah, we can warm it up and wait for it, because it's Chenin is also a very delicate grape, so it's a bit cyclical in a way. It's a bit shy sometimes, so it always takes the time to enjoy a Chenin Blanc, especially from Savenière, because it will show different face, and you will notice it. That's something very particular in Chenin area from Savenière. So always take a bit of time before you finish your glass, because it will show you different aspects.
Level and mineral stage. There is a fingerprint.
Yeah.
There's a mineral fingerprint in your wines.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's probably Loire, and how you process the wines, but distinct vanilla minerality. All of these wines have it.
Yeah, that's something that's very special. What we try to do actually, because we've got different wineries, we don't have the same team in each winery, because we really want to respect the expression of the terroir in each of our winery, but still we like the real pure and mineralic expression of the grapes. So that's something you will find in most of our wines, for sure. Yeah.
I think there's a consistency
Yes,
across all of them
That's the signature.
that ties back to the winemaker, I think.
Well, there are different winemakers.
Yeah.
We've got different winemakers, but obviously it's the same family,
Yeah,
and they have,
a similar philosophy.
they have the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Even though the winemaker touch is different from one estate to another.
Yeah, interesting. We have two lovely ladies here at Chez Vincent in Winter Park, and I would like you, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Hi, I'm Geraldine Kenny. I'm North America's sales manager for Saget La Perriere. So I'm based out of the U.S. and I handle sales for the entire North American continent for the family.
And hi, I'm Cecil Jacquard, so working as well with Geraldine on the export markets. So working for Saget La Perriere for close to 6 years already, and overseeing the different export markets where we are distributing. So,
Well, we just had a lovely luncheon here at Chez Vincent, and paired with your wonderful wines from the Loire Valley. Please tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the company and how long you've been with them.
Okay. So I actually was working for the importer called Pasternak back in the day, so the national importer for Saget and other wineries, as their New York State manager. And Arnaud Saget, the general manager of the winery, would come work the market to sail the wines and do wine dinners, etc. And we got close working the New York City market together. And after a couple of years, he asked me to come work for him and handle the local market since I was based in America. So I've been with the family directly for 2 years, but selling the wines for 4.
And now I understand you just moved to Austin, Texas.
I have.
Fantastic.
I was based out of New York for 10 years, originally from France, and so I handled the New York market for Pasternak for 2 years, and then when I moved on to working for the Saget family, had to be a little bit more central, overseeing the West Coast, the East Coast, and Canada as well. So I moved to Chicago for a little bit, and then decided to move further south to Austin, Texas, still in the middle, so easy airport access.
You know what the Chamber of Commerce motto for Austin is?
Yes, and I am definitely working hard on keeping Austin weird.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's the motto.
And
Okay.
are you keeping Loire weird?
Well, on my side, just to introduce you how I joined the Saget La Perriere. So I started to work for the Saget brother actually close to 6 years ago. And when I started, I joined them to oversee the European markets and then Asian markets. And for a few years, I was also in charge of marketing and communication for the family. And since, a few months ago, I moved back to export markets, to work along Geraldine to continue developing our presence in the different markets, in Northern America, obviously, in Europe, in Asia, and other places still to discover.
You know, having tried, these aren't all your wines, I don't think, but a nice representative broadcast of the wines, I found that they were all very elegant and somewhat surprised me from what one thinks about the Loire Valley.
Really?
Yeah.
You would think they had a more kind of heavier set or more funky or barnyard? What did you expect?
More barnyard.
Barnyard.
More barnyard. But I found that these wines were not only elegant, but well produced, well fined, and absolutely delicious. And across the board, these are food wines, I think.
Yeah, it's really showing what we tasted today was really interesting because it was showcasing the diversity of our region. From western part of like Anjou area with the Chenin Blanc we tasted together, up until the central Loire vineyards with Sancerre and Pouilly-Fumé. So it's real different. First of all, it's different weather conditions, different soils, different terroir, what we call in France, and different grape varieties. So it has a really huge diversity in the Loire Valley that has really good potential with food pairing, because you can play with these different grapes and different style of wine. So that's the beauty of our region.
Ah, beautiful. And now that you're in Texas, there's a lot of interest in the wines from the hill country of Texas.
Yes.
And they are planting a lot of varieties that are European in nature. So do you plan to invade the hill country of Texas?
I plan to discover it for sure. I mean, most varietals planted in what we call the New World are originated from the Old World. People are noticing South African Chenins, but Chenin is a varietal that was born in the Loire. So most
varietals planted in Texas, as in California and Washington and Oregon, are going to be originated of France very often. But I did notice my first day in Texas, we had a Texas rosé for lunch, and then I went to the Hill Country for the first time and drove about an hour, and just beautiful brand new wineries on the side of the roads, and definitely activities to do for the weekends, and nice pairing for barbecue. For sure.
The last time I was in Austin, and I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but I will call my nephew and see if I can find out. There was this French restaurant in an area that had a sawmill on one side, and it was kind of dark and out of the way, but had fantastic, like a covering of, I don't know, like a tent, really, almost like a Cirque du Soleil, and it even had a bowls court.
Okay.
And you'll have to find that. I need to find that for you.
Was
because
it Justine's?
Yes, I think it was
know it already?
Justine's.
I haven't been there, but Justine is the most famous French restaurant in Austin.
It was fantastic. We really enjoyed ourselves.
Oh, I look forward to going there. Justine, I actually found out about Justine in a French documentary about Austin and
Really?
about French expats living in Austin. And the owner of Justine apparently named the restaurant after his wife, and it's very punk rock scene, and it's open till 4 or 5 a.m. and all the rock stars that go tour and play in Austin will end up at Justine. So it's the scene, and I look forward to discovering it. I haven't been yet. I haven't been home a lot. We're traveling.
Well, when you get back to Sommer sometime, do try a restaurant, La Route du Sol,
Okay.
that I think you'll find
Oh,
fabulous.
Sauvignon?
And
Do you know that restaurant?
No, I don't.
you need to go
We'll look
search
it
it
up.
out. It's down a windy road next to the river, and
We always need pit
food,
stops when
food
we're
is
going.
fabulous, and so is the wine.
Yes.
So we really enjoyed this luncheon. I thought the wines paired exceptionally well with each of the dishes prepared by Chez Vincent, and we look forward to presenting the whole afternoon on Wineline TV. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure.